Welcome to Clicks and Coffee. I'm Alexander, and here we dive deep into the journeys of entrepreneurs and marketing innovators. Each episode, we uncover the challenges, triumph, and unique strategies of our amazing guests, giving you valuable insights and inspiration. Our goal is to build a community of growth-oriented professionals ready to learn, collaborate, and thrive in the ever-evolving world of digital marketing. So whether you're here for the latest trends or looking for that next big idea, you've come to the right place. Let's get started. And today we've got Kasim Aslam. Kasim is, well, he's a lot of things. Entrepreneur with 2 successful exits and maybe more, podcast host of Perpetual Traffic, co-founder of Pareto Talent, and some other ventures all listed on his LinkedIn profile. I encourage you to visit his profile. So this episode will be pretty packed. Kasim, thank you for being here.
Alexander, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
All right. Can you tell us in a couple of words about your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
I'm the world's greatest failure. I've failed at literally everything. And there's nothing about my entrepreneurial journey that was by design. It was me just making huge mistakes, but finding that a lot of opportunities come from being willing to take risks and make mistakes. And it's sort of, I've fallen backwards into some pretty cool successes too. So that feels like it's been worth the trauma.
All right. And what inspired you to get into your current company, which is Pareto Talent?
I made an exit. 2 years ago. It was the biggest moment in my entrepreneurial life. It was an 8-figure exit. That's kind of the closest thing an entrepreneur gets to the Super Bowl, is a big exit. And what was interesting about it was I had 50 unsolicited offers. We spent almost a year in due diligence phases. And the one thing people were impressed with more than anything else was my staff. I had a marketing agency. We sold at 40% margins where most marketing agencies are aiming at 15%. And so I was massively over-indexed from an efficiency standpoint. And the reason is I was going, first of all, for international labor, speaking from a North American perspective, international labor. And then second of all, I had a paradigm of hiring that I called, it actually at the time called the Pareto hiring system. And I just heard so many people say, like, God, where do you find these people? This is unbelievable. And where most people were finding folks in, the US or Canada to be their director level, manager level, C levels, I had folks in the Philippines, North Africa, Latin America, South Asia. And it didn't take too many times for me to realize, like, okay, I need to do this. And so me and a couple buddies launched Pareto Talent, and it's been way harder than I thought it would be. But it's also been like the most rewarding thing I've ever done as an entrepreneur. Just in terms of like it's a literal win-win from both sides. Like we're helping somebody who really wants an opportunity find it, and we're helping an entrepreneur who's really overwhelmed find somebody who can help them. And that it just feels, when it works phenomenally well. When it fails miserably. That's the other part though. Is like when it goes bad, you have 2 very distinct personalities that you're trying to manage. And I'm from the professional services business, so I've only ever had 1 client. And with Pareto, you kind of have 2. So that's been the new lesson that I've had to learn in this new venture in business.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit more about Pareto Talent and exactly what it does and what sets it apart from other recruiting companies in the industry?
Sure. We're going after the top 1% of the labor pool. And so the idea is most entrepreneurs are trying to pay the least, because that's generally speaking what you're supposed to do from a cost of goods perspective, is you pay as little as you possibly can. The issue is people aren't a commodity. We look at people as a commodity in the business world. We talk about people as a commodity. We even think about people as a commodity. It's like, oh, I take this person, I put them on the assembly line, they do the thing, money comes out. The problem is people are so dynamic, so unique. People are a miracle, and they're capable of anything. And the key isn't paying the least. The key is actually paying more than the high water mark, because if you want to win, or winners want to win, and money's how we keep score. But what's interesting about it is if you pay 10 to 15% more than the high water mark, you get somebody who does 3 to 5 times as much work. So it's massively outscaled. Instead of paying 10 or 15% more and getting 20 or 30% more, which is how we think about arbitrage, you pay 10 or 15% more and you get somebody who does 3 to 5, which is the literal definition of the Pareto distribution. The Pareto distribution is a mathematical concept that was subsequently applied to economics by, I think his name's Vincent Pareto, the guy who developed it. And what he identified, and it exists in almost every organic ecosystem, is 80% of the output comes from 20% of the input. So 80% of your yield on a farm comes from 20% of your seeds, and 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. But 80% of the work is done by 20% of your employees. And this is true in my business. 50% of my revenue at Solutions 8 when I sold it was managed by one guy. I had 100 employees, and 50% of my revenue was managed by one employee. Now, most people look at that and say, oh my goodness, Keyman Insurance, I never want to build a business that way, et cetera, et cetera. And so they try to flatten the hierarchical structure. But when you flatten the hierarchical structure, all you do is get rid of your peak performers. So I've leaned the other way. I go try to find peak performers. We've only gone through 2 cohorts so far. Pareto's really new. My first cohort, it took 1,400 applicants to yield 11 EAs. My second
Wow.
cohort took 24 or 2,500 applicants to yield 23 EAs. So few people make it through because I call them fly traps. It's nonstop hoops you have to jump through. Because if I'm going to pay you, and just to give you an example, ultra specific example, in Argentina, the average Argentinian is making $200 to $300 a month USD. We're paying $1,200 to $1,500 a month USD. Imagine making 5 times what your peers make. It's almost unfathomable in terms of the quality of life, the impact. And when you do that, now the whole world comes to you and says, I want the job. And you're allowed to lift your standards and lift your requirements about as high as they go. And I tell people, that's how I start every discussion is I have unreasonable standards. My standards for employment are unreasonable as an employer. And that's the expectation that I manage. And I'm going to deliver in a way that you haven't seen. I promise them meaningful work. I won't staff for boiler, like pounding the pavement, cold calls, data entry, any of that garbage. I promise them they're going to work with an entrepreneur that has an ascension mindset, so they're not going to be stuck just being somebody's assistant forever. And then some level of flexibility. We don't want to staff somebody in a job where they're screenshotting desktops, and if you check out for 60 seconds to go to the bathroom, you've been penalized, and you can't go to your daughter's ballet recital. We want them to have a real life, get paid more than they'd expect to get paid, and then they deliver on that 3 to 5x. And so that's the paradigm with Pareto is how do we find the best people? And I think especially with the advent of AI, I think people are going to become so much more important because AI is going to scale your human efficiency. Well, if you've got a mediocre employee, you don't want to scale mediocre. That's actually more damaging than it is helpful. You want excellence. You want paragons of excellence, and those are the people that we want to scale. So that's the thesis of Pareto. And I haven't even been in business a year yet, Alexander. So we're going to see what kind of trouble I get myself into.
And I know when we were talking before recording this podcast that the idea of also hiring an EA is that every 2 years, basically, you should be hiring a new EA because the EA you just hired will be promoted to a better position within your company. So it's not like the person is quitting or moving out, but it's like becoming so good that like you want to give them a position in your company and then you rehire a new EA for yourself.
100%. One of the questions people ask me often, I've done a lot of hiring. I've probably hired over 1,000 people now in my entrepreneurial career. And one of the questions people ask about hiring is, how do I retain top talent? And the question kind of pisses me off because I think there's something about that mentality and that paradigm that I think is flawed. The answer is you don't. Top talent doesn't want to be retained. They want to learn and they want to grow. And they will stay with you for as long as they have learning and growth opportunities. And the minute you've exhausted your learning and growth, and by the way, it's you exhausting, Mr. or Mrs. Employer, it's you exhausting your learning and growth opportunities because they will stay for as long as you can provide them with learning and growth opportunities. Once there are no longer learning and growth opportunities, that top talent is going to leave. And on average, my experience has been you have about two years. Now, 2 years internally is great if you can send them internally. But what happens is every business is structured like a hierarchy and it tapers at the top. So as you get bigger, you start burning off talent you can't keep that you want to keep. And that hurts. And the thing that I learned early is to help that talent transition. If people know that you're going to be helpful in their transition, they want to launch a business, get a new job, whatever, and you're going to act as a reference, be a referral partner, first of all, you avoid midnight move outs, because that's catastrophically damaging to a business is when somebody comes in and gives you their 2-week notice and they're critical to your business. So my only agreement with my employees is, hey, I know you're going to leave. I know you want to pursue whatever's right for you. I want that too. All I'm asking is that you train your replacement. Find and train your replacement, just so I'm not left in the lurch. And then on the back end, I'm going to be a good partner. And I've got a couple examples. Colin Schmelbeck, who's a world authority in Google Ads right now, was my employee. He worked at my agency. I knew he was going to start his own agency. And all I said was, dude, just don't midnight move out on me. Find and train a replacement. Not only has he done that, he and I are referral partners now. Danish Ashrafi was my employee. Caden Thompson now is getting famous in the Google Ads world, my employee. And they knew that they could build their business while they were working with me. And as long as we didn't cross swords and there weren't non-solicitation issues, there wouldn't be any problems. So people are going to ascend, preferably ascend internally. My 3 favorite examples. My first EA became my director of automations. Her name's Julianne. She's a girl in the Philippines. Brilliant automations mind. Not a great EA, but brilliant automations person. So I was like, you know what? You're okay at the EA thing, but gosh, you could do anything in like Zapier, Airtable, high level. She became our director of automations, and our automations at Solutions 8 were massively over-engineered. My second EA became my director of social. My third EA had a meteoric rise in our company, became our CTO, and is now one of my best friends and business partner. So the key isn't just hiring an assistant to keep as an assistant. The key is hiring an assistant and then seeing what it is that is their true superpower, and then let them go do that thing. Send them off to the races. If you have ever said, and every entrepreneur said this, those classic cliches, if you want something done, do it yourself. Nobody's going to do it as well as you, blah, 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 blah. You're not finding the right people. That can't be true. That can't, statistically speaking, right? Like anthropologically speaking, that cannot be true. You want to tell me that you are the best at everything in your business? You know what I mean? Like it starts to, if you really meditate on that paradigm, it starts to feel kind of stupid. It's a lot like hubris. It's like you are the best copywriter, graphic designer, videographer, customer service representative, like you're the best at either you are God and a superhuman, or you're not finding and incentivizing the right people.
Or Elon Musk.
Or Elon Musk. He really is the best at everything. Yeah, that guy.
Well, he says that he is.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so you started Pareto Talent just under a year ago, and so I guess you leveraged a little bit all of your connections to find to find clients and to find new clients, because the point of every business is to get new clients. And so how do you go about marketing your business? Like, what do you do on a daily basis? So are you more like on the operational sides or more on the sales side in the business? Because I saw you were co-founder of the business.
Yeah, I don't really do anything for Pareto on the day-to-day, which is I have an entrepreneurial buy box. I don't want to sell my time for money. And so any business that I start or anything that I get involved in, there can't be a time for money trade. The minute there is, I'm out. I'm a dad. I'm a bibliophile, as you can see behind me. I like to read. I like to think. And I've reached the point now where it just doesn't make sense to work for money in that way. I still want lots and lots of money, Alexander, but I'm in the luxurious, blessed position of being able to kind of make those demands of life. And I'd recommend that to all entrepreneurs. Know what your buy box is. It start right now, and it can start small in the very beginning. If you haven't had a big exit, those demands probably aren't as accessible, but you can say things like, I'll never work on my kids' birthdays. I'll never work on my anniversary. I'll never work nights and weekends. I'll never whatever. And then back into the business in that way. I know you didn't ask for that, but that was my little soapbox moment. Marketing Pareto has been interesting because it's a quality over quantity game. I'm not staffing big numbers. As a matter of fact, my job is to keep people from graduating our boot camp. I want to find as many fail points as I can, as many reasons to filter people out as I can. I know that sounds really macabre, but it's necessary to find folks that I feel comfortable saying, hey, this is that Pareto talent for you. So I'm never going to have a great big funnel of talent ever. And at the same time, this is the most intimate client relationship I think a business can have. Because unlike other recruiting firms, we don't just place and then say best of luck to you. We stay for the HR, we stay for training, we stay for some level of management and oversight. And what that means is I have to be accountable to this client forever in one of the more intimate roles that they're ever going to hire for. So I need to make sure the client has really reasonable expectations and because when you promise Pareto talent, some people are like, oh, they're going to be able to do everything. They're going to be superhuman and this is going to be great. And I'm going to throw all this stuff at them. And it's like, well, no, there's still ramp up period training and they're still human. They're still going to get sick. They're going to make a mistake. So it's just it's this interesting balance of matching the promise of the narrative to reality and doing so between two people that really can work together in a way that's symbiotic. And so it's just it's like a math equation that has to be properly penciled. And so far we're doing okay. I've had two or three really truly outstanding successes. Actually, my buddy Tim Bratton, he wouldn't mind me dropping his name. He's the founder of Rhapsody. He's had 2 public companies. He's done $100 million in gross revenue multiple times. Brilliant, brilliant guy. Hired one of our EAs, and he's like, "This is the best talent I've ever had." There were 3 or 4 of our Filipino hires. He's building a whole business for me from the ground up, like outstanding success. And also, I've had 2 or 3 really miserable failures where at one point the EA did really well in the boot camp. And then as soon as we placed her, she imploded. She just had, and you kind of see this with athletes where they crush practice, but they can't play in the game. I think she just got like scared or nervous or whatever. And then we've had a client that had just like, I won't even be able to describe just how I felt gaslit, dude. I'm like, hey, you realize this isn't like a nights and weekends thing, right? They're like a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type assistant. Oh, no, I know. And then Saturday night, it'd be a message to the EA via WhatsApp saying, can you change my dinner reservations? And I'm like, we talked about this, and that's not, that's not what this. So I think like this person watched The Devil Wears Prada way too many times. I'm figuring it out though. The thing that's really helped a lot is the predictive index, like doing personality tests on both, seeing how they overlap and how they mesh. But I've never been in a position in my life where I'm actually trying to market. I want to get the word out. I want as many people to know, but I still want the velvet rope. So I want awareness maximized, but I actually want sales minimized in an interesting way. And that's a fun lesson to learn because, dude, I'm a paid ads guy. Like in my world, it's like, oh, you go spend a bunch of money on paid ads, you get a bunch of leads, and then you sell to those leads. And this has been very, very different. So it's a fun learning opportunity.
Right now is really working on like the systems, making sure you have a good business model, I would say. And once you said, okay, I'm ready to grow the business, like what would be the way that you envision that marketing of the business?
Yeah, in a perfect world, I want 2 referrals from every placed EA, 2 referrals from every client who has a placed EA. And here's why I like that. First is I can't birth more Latin Americans, right? Like there's as many, there's the talent pool as a talent pool and the pipeline is the pipeline. And I think we actually need to improve the product over time, which is the training. Um, the clients that are referred to me and my referral partners that know me and know the client, what's nice about that is I'm on the 50-yard line already. I'm halfway through the vetting process when somebody goes, oh, hey, this person's actually going to, and especially if they've seen my talent and they know what my talent's capable of, because they make a promise that's reasonable. They're not making a promise like, oh, goodness, you have to hire these because they're amazing. Well, what does that mean? Some people come with really just unreasonable expectations I'm never going to be able to hit. So my true hope, to be honest with you, and it's already happening. Like Tim has referred me clients, Mitch has referred me client, my buddy Chris Martinez refers me clients. And so I want to build my referral network. And I think you can build referral networks with very strong intention. We pay a referral fee, but it's not going to make anybody rich. It's nominal. But I think making people aware of that can be helpful depending on who they are. But I think more important than the referral fee, to be honest with you, is symbiotic relationships with referral partners. So most of my referral partners now, and I have 3 strong ones, I help them in their business in different ways. They help me in mine in different ways. And so I think for people listening to this, one of the questions you can ask yourself, and this is a really important question, it's really valuable, is who already has your customer but doesn't already sell what you're selling? Who already has your customer but doesn't already sell what you're selling? So if you're selling, I don't know what, just to make the conversation easy and 2-dimensional, let's say you've got a cream for back pain. Well, go find the local chiropractor, right? Because the cream isn't going to step on his toes one way or the other. As a matter of fact, it's probably a supplement to him doing the adjustment. But very often our echo chamber is other people, like it's other pharmaceuticals, other back pain pills, drugs, whatever. But there's somebody else dealing with this back pain person who has nothing to do with your business at all. So I think for high quality relationships, and it's so funny, Alexander, I've never even thought about this. I really appreciate this line of questioning because you're getting my creative juices flowing. My strongest lead acquisition at Solutions 8, I built the #1 Google Ads agency in the world. We had $100 million in ad spend under management. I spent $250,000 a month in ads at my peak. My highest lead acquisition, my most profitable lead acquisition was referrals. As a matter of fact, my biggest referral partner was another agency called OMG Commerce. And they did ads, but they didn't do ads the way we did it, and they didn't do it for the customers we did it. So they had way more visibility than I did in the beginning. Brett and Chris, awesome dudes, super nerd famous in the space. I met Chris in an event, and he was like, dude, I have all these leads I can't close. And so I'd paid him 10% of the gross recurring, which ended up being a really significant amount of money. And I think at one point, 30% of our clients came from OMG Commerce. So
Wow.
I know, isn't that nuts? That was kind of before we scaled. So we ended up scaling out of that a little bit, but finding those strategic partners, referral partners, and it can't be about the money, because the referral fee, like, I'll give you $500 if you give me an EA. All right, thanks, dude. Like, I appreciate that. That's like a really nice dinner or maybe my car payment, but it's not going to move the needle, especially for the higher end entrepreneurs. But hey, I can also be this for you, and I have your customer in a different way. I think that could be a really interesting way for people to start looking at traffic acquisition. And again, it's not all traffic's created equal. You can get that same lead via cold traffic, but they're on the 0-yard line. You got to get them all the way to the finish, and you have to do the pre-qualification and the edification and build yourself up and make sure that they have reasonable expectations. Those warm referrals are 50-yard line or better. I've had warm referrals that just show up being like, when can I get my EA? And that's when it's such a luxurious position to be like, well, hold on, let me make sure we're the right fit for each other, and now they're chomping at the bit.
Pretty crazy. And so how do you, because it looks like you have a lot of connections and that's how you got your referral, but how do you find referral connections? And you were saying that it was a two-way thing and not just a one-way thing. So what do you mean by, like, I'm helping them, with something
Yeah.
else that is more than just monetary?
Well, I'll give you a specific example. I'll give you a couple. OMG Commerce is a good one. OMG Commerce did e-commerce ad management, but they also did a bunch of other services, post-click optimization, landing page development. I didn't do any of that. So they referred me clients that they couldn't close. I referred them clients that I didn't have services for. Chris Martinez is another good example. Chris is my buddy, just launched a new business, Bloom. He does agency consulting, scaling, helps agency with exits, mergers and acquisitions. Agencies are my perfect client for executive assistants because I think the agency business is the most multifaceted business. I think if you're running an agency, you're actually running 5 businesses and you don't even know it. So agency owners really need EAs. Chris doesn't sell EAs at all, but he works with agencies and I work with agencies. And so he refers EAs to me, and then I refer agencies over to him. And what's cool about, and this has yet to happen because I am so new, but what would be cool about my EA business is I get a lot of visibility into people's businesses through their EA. And so I can say, like, hey, Chris, you really have to talk to Alexander. I feel like what he's doing is so ripe for scale. He's, really knows what's going, like, and so now that symbiotic referral network ends up really helping each other. And so what I tell people, I have a reputation now in the space, but I didn't start with that. I think the way to be a good referral partner is to go love on people first. Go first. Like my relationship with Chris Brewer at OMG Commerce, and I hope Chris doesn't mind me saying this. I'd be saying it if he were in the room. I'm pretty sure I went first. I reached out to him. He and I were speaking at the same event. I started double clicking on the stuff that he was saying. Like I built that relationship, built up some trust, and then he referred me work. And a lot of my referral partners are really similar. And dude, what's really funny is, like, I've had referral partners in SaaS products that I use, like Mavenlink, which is a project management tool. I started singing Mavenlink's praises because I really liked the way it worked. They started referring me marketing clients. So like your referral part, go high level. Sean Clark, the CEO of High Level, is my buddy. He's not my buddy because, like, how did I meet Sean? I was on Facebook talking about how much I loved High Level, and Sean started messaging me and thanking me for the things that I was saying. So I think referral partners come out of advocacy. If you really like what somebody's doing, if you think somebody's like showing up in an awesome way, if you really appreciate, their service, their product, their personality, their whatever, go advocate for them. And no matter what, I think that ends up being a win-win, even if you're not going to get a direct referral partnership out of that specific relationship. I'd be real careful with advocacy with intent. Like, oh, I wonder if I advocate for Alexander, he'll start referring me as clients. Like that feels shady. I think building a paradigm of advocacy just as a default mechanism for helping the people that you care about is a way to end up with a really strong reputation that will also have the byproduct of having strong referral partners.
No, I agree. It always works better when you talk about a company that you like than, as you said, out of more interested of like, yeah, I'm sure if I talk to these guys in a nice way that they will help me. That for sure, because there is only one way to really represent something is that if you really believe in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it seems to me that you're a pretty creative guy. And so at Pareto Talent, do you guys experiment a lot? Or is it just you, or how does that go to find new ideas and then grow the business?
The danger that we have as entrepreneurs is in experimentation. And so I have to be held back, and I've got two partners that can help do that. The benefit I have is one of my partners he's actually done the work that we're placing people for. And because he's done the work, he has a very practical understanding of what it is that we're requiring of folks. It's actually the reason we chose to staff for EAs. In the very beginning, we were just going to be a staffing agency. And we were going to find any role. Like, oh, you need a graphic designer, you need a video editor, you need a software engineer. And he was the one that said we should staff for EAs first, because the EA role helps us see who's good at what. Like it's unto itself, it's an experiment. And so I think the experimentation for us ends up being maybe more on a client resource perspective than it does on a global perspective. I have to be real careful about major shifts because we've got 50 EAs now in our pool. And if I jump in like the batshit insane entrepreneur who's like, I've got an idea, from a personality perspective, that really juices up 1% of the population. It really deflates 99% of personality types. So, and man, it took me 20 years as an entrepreneur to learn that. I used to go to company meetings and I'd be like, we're changing everything. I just read this book about this thing and it's the latest and greatest. And I didn't realize how stressful I was to the people that worked with me.
I can relate.
Yeah.
I can relate. Okay, so it's like experimentation, but first in a bubble of
That's
yourself.
exactly right. Yeah, and you learn who you can experiment with. You get that one or two people who you can pull off to the side and be like, "Hey, what do you think would happen if?" And then those are fun relationships to build and fun conversations to have.
Okay. Uh, so, even though Pareto Talent is pretty new, do you have any upcoming project that you're excited about, or maybe a different than Pareto Talent, but do you have
Yeah.
anything you're excited about lately?
Dude, so I love the cool thing about Pareto is it lets me see where the needs are. So one of the requests that come in a lot from Pareto is financial understanding. It's like, oh, we really need somebody who's going to know finance, bookkeeping, QuickBooks, tax compliance, all that stuff. And that's hard to find in an EA, but it's easy to find in a role. So I rolled up a company called 3X Financials, which is financial services. And we would do like fractional CFO or controller work. I only have 2 clients, but it's also brand new. But Pareto led me to that. The other thing that came out of Pareto was people asking for high level. Go high level, if you're listening and aren't familiar, is I think the most disruptive marketing software in the world, but everybody wants to go high level EA. So the thing that I'm thinking about, and I haven't done this yet, is I'm just going to roll up an agency that does nothing but go high level and then train people on to be like triple PhD deadly assassins at specific high level features. Like I want the high level person that knows automations better than anybody, the one that knows landing pages better than anybody, the one that knows like all the SMS stuff better than anybody, email deliverability. And because trying to train one EA on high level is a big bite.
Yes.
It's a big bite. So anybody who says, I'm a high level expert, I'm like, oh, okay, sure you are.
Yes.
That's like saying, I'm a health expert. Really?
Yeah.
Because like there's just such a difference, right? There's such a difference between a cardiologist and a dermatologist. So I want a high level
It's
agency.
a marketing ERP system.
Yes. Gosh, what dude? That's the best definition I've ever heard of high level. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well done. I'm gonna steal that from you.
no
Um,
problem.
But that's what I like about Pareto is it lets me see. I really like that. I like businesses like that. Solution Date was like that too. I had 200 clients. So I got to see quickly which industries had margin and which ones didn't, which ones were profitable and which ones didn't, which ones were dying and which ones weren't. And so as an entrepreneur, I got to kind of like, just had a head start, let's say. And Pareto is giving me that too. I get to see what other entrepreneurs are asking for, and then I can just go build it.
Right. So that other project is 3xfinancial.com.
Yeah, 3xfinancials.com. And we're doing basically fractional CFO. So it's not just bookkeeping. If all you want is bookkeeping, go to bookkeepers.com, which is owned by my buddy, Ben Robinson. Good dude. And he's going to be cheaper and better than me if all you want is bookkeeping. But if you want elevated, like if you want, controller, AR reports, forecasting, like if I hired somebody, what ended up happening, deal analysis, like those types of things, higher end financial services, 3X Financials were your folks. Fractional CFO.
Wow. Okay. Cool. That's another another interesting venture, and I know that a lot of people, and I'm part of some e-commerce forums and everything, and I know that's a big usually a big issue with a lot of entrepreneurs that, like, they want to grow their business, but then managing that financial part of things, all the modeling, all the, like, really doing like a 3 week cash flow or something like that. um, that is something that takes time and takes skills, and so
Oh yeah.
it's good to have somebody that can do that on a fractional level, so that we
Yeah.
don't
I,
have
I
to
wouldn't have
to
been able
spend
to
like
exit my agency, but
150 to have somebody that can do it, because the problem is the talent. So you can pay somebody 60,000-70,000 dollars, but will they do a good job? Not sure. But if you get somebody that's fractional, that's like very high level, and you only get a share of their time, I think that's very valuable, because most of the business we don't need a full-time CFO.
that's exactly right. Most business, unless you're doing $30 million a year, and even then, like I've seen some really lean $30 million businesses, but for anybody sub 10 million gross rev, you don't need an FTE. There's not enough work for them.
No,
So yeah, that's
not
really well
enough
stated.
margin. All right. And so to close out this podcast, I always have a question that is a little bit open-ended. So, no need to go on for 10 minutes, because we could go on for hours. But it is one quick question is, what are you excited about in the world of digital marketing today? And what are you worried about?
I'm excited about AI and I'm worried about AI.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's I would say that's a recurring
Yeah.
answer.
I think AI is a miracle. I think it's going to change the world. And I think a lot of people are going to be displaced and we're going to have to figure out how that shakes out.
Yeah, yeah. I saw lately, I saw a guy sharing on LinkedIn AI generated photo, and there is no way to tell that was AI generated. Like zero. It
Yeah.
was so amazing. I don't remember exactly what engine. It's a newer engine, I guess. But you look at a picture, it's like no way.
Yeah.
Insane. So
It's
yeah.
nuts.
And it's just like we have the it's just growing so quickly, advancing so quickly, that yeah, I feel the same, excited and worried at the same time. All right, cool, Kasim. It was really amazing to have you today on the podcast. We might have to do another one with 3x financials
Yeah,
and
I would love
hear a
to.
little bit more about it. But if you guys want to check one of his websites, so paretotalent.com, I'll put the link in the description, and then the other one, 3xfinancials.com. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and really good luck on both of your newest venture.
I appreciate you, Alexander. Thank you.